Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. Continuing some important conversation on the value of competitive analysis. I know last time I shared several different things, but highlighted one of my most recent adventures to the flagship location for the state of Michigan for Planet Fitness in Northville, and how that was a good learning opportunity, but certainly a good reminder to me to really think about, what's important and all of this and that. And so that's something I've shared over the years with you all on Fitness Friday, is just my passion for a spacious gym and a spacious layout. And I actually want to share some feedback. You've heard me go on and on about my own club here, the Planet Fitness Commerce, Michigan, which I call the PF Michigan Country Club. And so it's actually right down the street from Bay Point Golf Club. So folks, when I tell you it has a country club environment, I am serious. I am so serious when I say that. And so I want to share some quick feedback here. Some Google Plus reviews that folks shared and talked about the size of it. So again, this is a series on competitive analysis. And when you think about a huge competitive advantage of my gym in particular, but certainly you've heard me mention them, the PF Michigan group gyms that I've been to here in Metro Detroit, is the size and layout is so important. So I just want to quickly point out here what some other folks, some fellow members of my gym, have to say about it. So in the interest of time, this first review is a little long, so I'm going to modify it here and go on to the next two. So Rob Spikuza, who's a local guide for Google, and so this review was done a year ago. He said, member since it opened a year and a half ago, situated in half of a former Kroger's grocery store. It's massive. There are plenty of machines and free weights, all new as I mentioned. I have never gone there and not been able to get on a piece of equipment because of overcrowding. The elevated ceilings add to the sense of openness and are much appreciated. The locker rooms have ample space. The vastness of the building is a nice feature. Skipping on here, I'm a big fan. I'm a fan of Planet Fitness, and this location being only 7 minutes from my house is great. All right, moving on here. Paul Mueller is also a local guide. So 10 months ago, he said, great gym, always clean and running efficiently. If you see things like that, that's a kudos. Why may not be directly, but that's a kudos to leadership. That is indicative to what, in this case, Paul thinks of the leadership. Always clean and running efficiently. It is such a large location that even when there are a lot of people there, it's not crowded at all. All right, lastly, Derek Gluth, local guide as well, 9 months ago said, honestly, this might be the nicest one out there. My home club is a different one, but I go here a lot because I have the black card, and that goes a lot further here. So yet examples, just more examples of the importance, again, of studying, looking at feedback, seeing what are people saying about your facility, but also, again, these people know what's important to them. This last person mentioned, hey, I'm a black card member, this isn't my home club, but I come here a lot because it goes further here. So goes to show you, people are comparing your facility, your club, to others, even within your particular town or even your particular suburb. So it's so important to recognize what exactly is going on. And so, folks, let me delve in here quickly to share with you my most recent adventure to the Planet Fitness location in Livonia on 5 Mile Road here in Michigan, Metro Detroit. So, folks, July 24th, what I'm going to do is I want to read the letter. I went there 2 times. Actually, how I ended up going to this club was, so July 17th, so I'm driving to my gym, and it turns out it was closed for a power failure. So I drive up and I see, the sign on the door, and I'm mentally thinking, okay, so which other gym what other location am I going to go to? So mentally went through some of the closer locations, went through that in my mind and said, you know what, Livonia, go to Livonia. And then at that point I was thinking, okay, there's 2 clubs in Livonia, one on 7 Mile, one on 5 Mile. So I thought to myself, okay, 7 Mile has the TVs on the treadmills. That's certainly a competitive advantage, but there's not really anything, there's no highlights I'm going to be catching on ESPN as I would do and as I did on June 1st when I was in there to catch, I missed game 1 of the NBA Finals this past June. And so that was important. That's why I chose that club that day. But this time I said, you know what? It's time for a new adventure. Go to the 5 Mile location, 5 Mile Road location. Folks had an absolute blast. So I'm going to read the feedback that I shared after day number 2. So July 17th and 18th, both those days my club was closed. And so went to this particular location again. There's the value of a black card membership, and it gives you a lot of options when Mother Nature happens and when things happen. So July 24th, 2018, here's my feedback. Hello, I'm a proud and happy member of the PF Commerce Club and had the opportunity to visit your club last week as my club was closed due to a power outage. I really enjoyed my 2 visits. First, when I came in on Tuesday, I appreciated Devin's friendliness coupled with his keeping an eye on the parking lot while at the front desk. He saw me when I walked from my car. I appreciated the attentiveness and attention to safety. The next day, I appreciated Morgan's friendliness when I came in. She was cleaning the first day when I came in, and Devin was cleaning the second day when I came in. Their teamwork and collaboration was commendable. Finally, I was so inspired by one of your employees both mornings. I didn't get his name, but his white MSR name tag had new team member on it. He appeared to be in his late 50s or early 60s. When I saw him working, I wondered to myself if he was a retired member of the military. His level of focus, dedication, and discipline was readily apparent and was such an inspiration. Thanks again for the hospitality. I look forward to future visits when I'm in Livonia. Keep up the great work. So that was my feedback. And as I'm doing with this particular series, as I've told you before, I'm never this generous. And so what I'm going to do is share some thoughts that led me to write this particular feedback, and just share some insights that are certainly be important to you, particularly from a leadership development standpoint. So first off, Devin at the front desk. So I'm walking from my car, and again, this location has windows. It is in a shopping center, so it has windows that are very close to the front desk. So all locations, just all different franchise gyms or private gyms, don't have the glass that close to the front desk. So this is a unique location in terms of just having that glass just right there in plain view of the front desk. So Devin, so I'm walking from my car in the parking lot. It's about 5 minutes to 5 a.m. on July 17th. So I'm looking at the door. It's all well lit, brightly lit, all of that. And then I see him. So he's standing at the front desk looking straight ahead, just kind of at the club floor. And then, so he must have seen me through his peripheral vision. And then all of a sudden, folks, he goes, bam. And as I'm walking in through the parking lot, did not take his eyes off me. I made it to the door, and then he walked up a little bit up front and then grabbed the scanner for me to scan in. How you doing, ma'am? Good morning. Have a nice day. You enjoy your workout. And so that, folks, is huge. When you've got a front desk employee that is keeping an eye on the parking lot, folks, from a safety standpoint, I mean, that was huge. I mean, I so appreciated that, but I also recognized what he was doing. He had my back as I was walking in, dark, it's almost 5 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark outside. So did not want to let that pass by, but so important. Remember safety. You got, in that case, where you can look out and see what's going on in the parking lot. So certainly criminals in Livonia, they certainly need to avoid that 5-mile location because Devin's watching that parking lot. Number 2, the teamwork and collaboration that I highlighted between Devin and Morgan. So Devin was at the front desk on Tuesday morning, and Morgan was attacking the bathroom when I came in to put my bag up. Then it was the reverse, on Wednesday morning, the 18th. So Morgan was at the front desk, and then Devin was attacking the men's bathroom. So that teamwork and collaboration is just always good to see, but particularly at Planet Fitness. And the reason why I point this out is, and I've reviewed hundreds of reviews on Indeed as well as Glassdoor.com for Planet Fitness, and you can see what current employees are saying at all levels, at the franchise level, as well as you can see what they're saying in both locations, but also you can see where their pain points are in terms of things like that, things they like, things that are working well, yada, yada, yada. But the cleaning, I mean, a lot is expected of Planet Fitness employees. So when I say that, I mean, say for instance, hypothetically, a person wants to work the front desk at LA Fitness. So they're going to have other types of roles. So there's not as much, yes, there's going to be multitasking, but you're going to have, custodial staff that's out there during the day cleaning. I mean, there's just so many different types of roles where you're not doing as much multitasking. And so the Planet Fitness folks, they great work ethic across the board, because that is a very lean organization, a very flat organization. I mean, from a corporate standpoint, all the way down to the franchise, very, very lean. And that's one of the things that draws franchisees to that franchise. There's just not a whole lot of headcount and people working there. So you got all these people you got to pay and all of that. So it's just very flat. So the people that are there have to do a lot. And particularly one thing that certainly keeps coming up in different reviews is the amount of cleaning that they do. Now, you've heard me talk about Planet Fitness and just how they truly lead the industry in terms of their commitment to cleanliness of their clubs. It's certainly something that's highlighted often in marketing. And so that is a value that just comes from corporate all the way down to the franchise level. They mean business when they talk about that cleanliness aspect. So the employees are cleaning a lot. And so for me, when I'm thinking from it, this is an HR episode, okay? This is an HR episode. Next week, I'm also going to talk about HR. But from an HR standpoint, you can I think about one thing that occurs to me is just the vulnerability in terms of potential turnover when you have that amount of cleaning that is required. And so it just, when I see it even in my own club and I see it at other different clubs, you see folks rotating with the cleaning and things like that. It's just fantastic, because I think to myself, if you got one person that's doing the bulk of the cleaning, those are probably some of the people that are going on Indeed or Glassdoor.com complaining about how much cleaning they had to do, and they're now former employees. So I just think teamwork and collaboration in terms of reducing the vulnerability of turnover, certainly for Planet Fitness franchisees, but just even other clubs as well, other franchises, just teamwork and collaboration is good, because one person isn't getting bogged down. And then another word that keeps coming up, not only in the Planet Fitness reviews with both of those websites I mentioned, but other franchises as well, is the F word, is favoritism. This person favored this person favored males, this person favored females, this person made me do all the cleaning and all of that. So when you've got that teamwork and collaboration going on, it just helps to mitigate some of those risks in terms of turnover and things like that. Managerial accusations of favoritism, yada, 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 just nips that in the bud. Okay, and so folks, and lastly, I want to talk about the gentleman that I wrote here. I didn't know his name at the time, but Courtney called me that afternoon. So I submitted this the morning of the 24th, and she called me and left me a message thanking me for the feedback and let me know how much she appreciated it, and gave me the number, asked me to call her back. So I called her back, and long story short, and she was just so excited and so enthusiastic, and I just told her, I said, you all are doing a great job. I just wanted to let you all know, and just keep up the great work. And I said, I just got to know though, who is that man? His name tag said new team member. Who is that man? And she told me his name is Walter. And so folks, Mr. Walter. I mean, I could do a whole episode on Mr. Walter here, but just such an inspiration, folks, such an inspiration. And it's true. He had to be, just eyeballing him, looked like he could have been late 50s, early 60s. And when the first time I saw him, and I said, you know what, this man means business. I have a sales background, so I can size people up and in situations and places up. I can size them up very quickly. And I looked at him and I said, this man means business right here. And then that next morning, he starts the 6 a.m. shift. So the next morning, the first morning I saw him at 6:08, and I looked and I said, oh my gosh, this man means business right here. First thought in my mind was, man, I wonder if he's a retired first sergeant. And because, I come from a military background and all of that, and just being raised in different military bases and stuff. And I said, man, I wonder if he's a retired first sergeant. And so that was my thought. And then the second morning when I saw him wheeling that cart, and I looked up, and there, I said, there's the first sergeant again. Of course, now I know his name is Walter, but there's the first sergeant again. It's 5:57 a.m. He's way on the other side of the gym and cardio pushing that cart. And I said, you know what? See, I knew what I was talking about. But such an inspiration. And the point I wanted to make with what that is, and this is an HR episode. This just goes to recognizing that potential employees of all ages can add value to your facility. I've spoken particularly, a few years ago to a group in Lansing. It was Michigan Shifting Gears. That was a program here for people that were in their 50s and 60s and who had been downsized and were doing some career transition experiences and programs. And just having been exposed to that and interacting with the folks and just realizing how important and just what a challenge this concept of ageism is, where you're discriminating against people based on their age, and they're too old, and they don't want to work here, or will they be able to keep up? And I think Walter is just a absolutely positively outstanding example of that. And he is just such an inspiration, folks. I came home that following weekend and just cleaned my gym and cleaned my garage. He's just such an inspiration, to see that. And so don't limit people. Don't look at people's ages and say, well, they may not work, or they may be this and that. He is a shining example of that, and just was so great to see that. And I'm actually going to give another example here before I close that episode, but just had to highlight those points of what's important and why. And another thing, when I walked into the club, I saw they had 2 whiteboards right there at the front door, announcing they had a new trainer named Ryan, and talking about some personal tips about him, is that he ran track for Golden Valley, which is in Western Michigan. And I said, wow, I need to come back and talk to him, because I used to run track, years ago. I still do sprint intervals twice a week. And I said, man, this would be cool to kind of talk to him about his track experiences. But anyway, so I highlighted him and his experience, and and also too, the second whiteboard had his training schedule. So that was good, because a lot of people don't want to go to the Planet Fitness website or the specific club website and see exactly what the training hours are. So it's just right there, and that was great to see. But folks, I want to move on here to the nitty gritty of this particular episode, HR, power to the people. Now, I've highlighted this book and I'm highlighting it again. Good to Great. I'm sure some of you have read this. If you have not, please do. I cannot do this book justice, but I want to point out 3 points from this book. My favorite 3 points, and I think just if there's a synthesize, it's just some quick, particularly leadership development and management development points from this book, it would be the 3 key lessons I'm about to share with you quickly here. And that is, number 1, so you're thinking about good to great. So he essentially, quick background. So he looked at, he and a team, looked at, initially it started out, the original sample size, looked at thousands of different companies, narrowed it down to say, okay, what is it that certain companies and corporations do that have taken them from good, now all of a sudden great. And so there was different criteria that they looked at, profitability and leadership and all of that. So won't get into all of that, but essentially, folks, and when you're talking about from an HR standpoint, it's so important. So just picture yourself. If you may be a franchisee, you may be a general manager at a corporate club, you may be a general manager or member of the management team at the franchise level. So you're driving your bus of your particular facility. You are in the driver's seat in your leadership role. And so essentially what you want to do is keep these 3 things in mind. So as you're driving, you may have your vision of, hey, we want to be the best club, we want to have the most number of members, whatever your goals are. But just remember, to be good, for what companies have done to go from good to great, number 1, they have the right people on the bus. Okay, have the right people on the bus. This goes back to recruiting, this goes back to hiring, this goes back to interviewing, and really determining why someone wants to work at your facility, what their motivations are, what are they passionate about fitness, what you can discern all of that in interviews. You can do behavioral-based interviews. There's just different things. Perhaps they worked at a fitness facility or some similar facility like that before. There's ways to determine that. So you just want to have the right people on the bus. Because if you have people on your bus that they're just not the right people, they don't want to be there and they are going to hurt you in the long run. So I just want to emphasize that. Number 2, you want to have the right people in the right seats. Right people in the right seats. So if you've got someone and they're struggling, or you're having just some issues with someone on your team or some people on your team, you have to ask yourself, are they in the right roles? Is this a good fit for them? Is there something, could we change? Perhaps you have someone, if you're one of the very few now, gyms, there's a trend going away from that 24-hour 7-day-a-week schedule. So if you're one of the few that has a 24/7 schedule, okay, you may have someone on the night shift and they just, started out working there because they really needed a job and then they're really more suited for a daytime position. If one opens up and that's a good fit, perhaps you want to consider switching them. That's just an example, but you want to have the right people in the right seat. So important. And I even think about my own club and the PF Michigan Country Club, Commerce Country Club, and I think about again the points that were alluded to in the surveys and how efficiently and how well-run gym it was certainly one of the quotes that I read. And just Cody does an excellent job. Cody is the general manager and just does a fantastic job. I remember one of my earliest impressions of him, was I was on a seated triceps machine, one of the selectorized machines early on, and saw him walk in through the door. This is when I used to work out a little bit later in the morning. Saw him walk in and had a smile on his face, had his lunch in his hand, had a smile on his face. His gaze immediately went to his front desk and the people standing at the front desk, and he had a big smile on his face. So does extremely well, and he's in a good seat. He's in the right seat, all right, from a leadership perspective. And so does a great job hiring people that fit into the culture, our country club culture of that club. But folks, so that's an example, okay? Lastly, you want to get the wrong people off the bus. Wrong people off the bus. This will typically happen. Yes, you may have to terminate people in some cases, but also it can happen typically with a leadership change or a leadership strategy change or even a leadership style change. And I just throw myself as an example. Just years ago, I used to be the biggest people pleaser, and on Non-Fitness Fridays, this is actually my ongoing new series now, Overcoming People Pleasing. I used to be a huge people pleaser. I wanted it to be light. I didn't like conflict. I wanted, just everybody to be happy and get along, but that's not leadership. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. You're going to have to rock the boat. You're going to have to shake things up, and people aren't always going to like it. And so when you think about, the old Southern Belle, sweet Rachelle, okay, back in the day, the type of leader I was, just trying to make everyone happy and a people pleaser, versus the Rachelle now that is still sweet, very kind, very thoughtful, but I'm definitely no nonsense. So you can see what type of leadership style that I've had as I've grown in my own leadership. But you think about that from a business or a company standpoint or a facility standpoint. When you have those two types of leadership styles, people will often self-select and they will leave. Okay, if you have no accountability and you were like me back in the day, just didn't want to push anybody and make anybody mad, then all of a sudden you do that. You start holding people accountable. You start asking them to do different things. Then there's you rock the boat. People are going to, oh, I can't take this, and I'm leaving, whatever. So you will either have to terminate people or they will self-select and get off the bus themselves. So again, good to great. Number one, folks, you want to have the right people on the bus, to recap. Number two, want to get the right people in the right seats. Lastly, get the wrong people off the bus. And so, folks, I want to close this episode out here with a quick Kroger review. So, I'm always giving feedback. And so completed this on the 20th of July here for the Commerce location, which is on Pontiac Trail, Commerce, Michigan. So quickly, folks, Therese, so I went to one of the self-checkout lanes and so wrote this feedback. Therese provided excellent customer service this morning. The free Friday download item setup was not ready yet since I was in so early, but Therese walked me to the area where the item was located. Once I reached checkout, she came over to ensure that the item was credited correctly. It was. I appreciate her willingness to go above and beyond to help me. Her attentiveness and customer service skills were commendable. I look forward to future visits to this location. Thank you. And then asked, if you want to recognize an employee by name or description, please enter the info here. And then I wrote Therese, worked in the self-checkout area, age range 60s to 70s, short brown hair, glasses, approximate height 5'3". Again, a lady who was in her 60s to 70s who knocked my socks off from a customer service standpoint. Had me walking all, she made sure to find that free Friday item for me. So I didn't have to make another trip back to the store. So I close out again. All right, do not fall into the trap of ageism and judging people based on their age and they're too old and this and that. What they're bringing with an older person will bring a senior citizen or beyond will bring to the table is certainly just a lot of just traditional work ethic that you wouldn't see otherwise in many cases. And so, folks, give them a chance. Give them a chance. I don't care what type of facility you own. Give them a chance. Give them a chance. All the way down to the younger folks. I think about Maddie, who's the general manager at the Planet Fitness in Brighton, Michigan. Okay, 21 years old, killing it. They're killing it in Brighton. So yet another example. Someone very, very young. I personally at a chain gym, at a high volume chain gym. She's the youngest person I've been aware of that's run a high volume chain gym like that. Now, your Anytime Fitness, your places like that, where you got an average membership of 825 and things like that, yes, you will see younger people in leadership roles like that, but she's doing a great job out there. But again, on the young end of the spectrum, or you got Therese over here at the Kroger and Commerce, or Mr. Walter at the 5 Mile Road in Livonia at Planet Fitness. And so, folks, give people a chance. Give people a chance. Okay, hiring, and it's certainly one of the most important decisions, or the most important decisions you will make, because it's truly, truly, truly a do or die for your facility. The people that you have on your bus will either take you to the right destination or help you go to the wrong destination. So the choice is yours. So until next time, I look forward to continuing this conversation on HR topics and power to the people. Thanks so much for your time. Make it a wonderfully fit day.